after Shulchan. In this case, day after Shulchan is also considered a partial yankel. It's called Isru Chag. Isru means either to rule out or the binding out. Binding of the Chag, the yankel will now have tied to us, or the removal, which means the changeover, the switch over from the yankel to back to regular day. But because the switch should not be too radical a change, so we consider it sort of a small yankel. Therefore, it's a mitzvah to add something to your meal today. A semi-yankel, this would have not volume, because many have filled themselves up till the next yankel. Still, for the sake of the mitzvah, for the sake of the rather than Gashmias, since today it's a partial yankel. This is one item. Besides eating, of course, it's considered brilliant. Even those who say kaf, or the shkedish, this reflects in them. Nobody says kaf is today. It's another thing, Halacha, which is a thing, which is not, yet it's something that very few fulfill. That's what from the story of Iyad. The beginning of Iyad tells us that he used to make special parties, feasts for his sons, daughters, his family, and then he would bring korbanos. What were the korbanos for? Korbanos were korban to ask forgiveness in case these surudas, these feasts, they misbehaved, they might have drunk too much, might have done wrong. This korban should be an ultimate sacrifice to forgive for any misbehavior while eating or drinking. It's possible a person overeats or overdrinks and he doesn't behave properly. So as a kapara, we bring these korbanos. Nowadays, too, we learn from there that after Yankev, after the time of Kedusha, time when Jews don't go around getting drunk, yet it is possible that in the process of eating or drinking a Yankev, making merry, even with a little of tahara, purity, it's possible that a person might have gone beyond the limit of the actual mitzvah of eating. He might have gorged himself, or he might have eaten something wrong, he might have drunk too much, possibly acted wrongly without the kedusha necessary, he might have done something wrong, being chalel, as is shown the kedusha, not work, but spirit. Therefore, there is actually a minute to see that after the end of it's over, you wait till the end of the month. You don't do it right a month or so, because the month of Tishrei, for instance, is all filled with holidays. We don't want to spoil the rest of the month. The month of Nisan, too, is the whole month of Simcha. As soon as the month is over, then right after the Shkedish, the first Monday and Thursday, following Monday, are declared as fast days. This is known as the Tainus Bahad. Tainus Bahad is days, days, Monday, Thursday, Monday. These first 3 days of the next month are Tainus, Jews who are very religious and Yerushalmi fast those 3 days. It sounds difficult. I just got through with David Kippur so hard. There's not 3 additional fast days. That's why nowadays it's not heard of much. We can do it. Even if we don't do it, let's at least reflect the fact that who would do it? Who would be those who are good, really the ones that are very firm, the ones that are really Yerushalmi. The ones who are Yantiv would be the ones that fulfill the mitzvahs most. We could go so far as not to fast 1 day like a Kippur, 3 days. 3 days, period of 10 days, period of 8 days. Fast days, of course, they might have done something wrong. Imagine how delicate the Torah is, how delicate the mitzvahs are, and how these tzadikim are the ones, because of something so delicate, will go so far as to fast 3 full days. Now, the possibility they might have done, might have transgressed slightly, at least we should learn from them the lesson also ask her how we should be careful in avoiding the Shemitah Masuri, be careful to do it with proper proper year, or Kira Shemayim, proper chant be given to each mitzvah, each true mitzvah be honest with Kira, or Kira Simcha. That's why a person lives, alive in Kedusha, and so on. Therefore, with Hashem, we must fulfill, let's say, our need, surely need means less, that's more than others who not with us, and even with mitzvahs. At least, let us at least undertake at least 3 days, whatever, undertake to add a few minutes of explaining this in those 3 days. Of that, the place of the kindness, you know that it is a play like the kindness. 3 days after the Shlegish, right after the Shlegish Teshuvah, which starts with the first Monday after the Shlegish Teshuvah. And then the following Thursday, the following Monday. We should try to add this Bavly anyhow. Every year we should start with Teshuva, and every year should better. At least those 3 days, perhaps we can do something. For the sake of that, instead of adding a few minutes of this Bavly, let me do 5 minutes more. Good. Make up for that. That's a push, which is effort, it's a different country. That's push too, it's push of our Nosson, which Hashem wants most of all of the Jews. So that Nosson is effort to see the Nosson of Hashem. Start with us. See with our eyes now. Yes, go, tzadik. Good place, Shabbos. We're going back to our regular Shia, up to the dinner of Shabbos. So in order to get back into it, let's first review very briefly the dinner of Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Kedusha of Shabbos. As is known, the Shabbos Kodesh is very fitting to speak about this thing because it's Pashas Bereshis. Zayre Kodesh says Bereshis, the first word that the Torah teaches us the most important of all the mitzvahs. Above all mitzvahs is the Ois. The Ois, the symbol which proves a Jew. He is called a Jew if he keeps the Shabbos Kodesh. Bereshis, first, Bereshis is Yorei Shabbos. Respect for the Shabbos is above all else. Then he is a Jew. As a Shalom, Achala Shabbos is the same. It is an Ovid Kechav B'chol Dvarah. Shabbos and the Menazora, Easter, Chila Shabbos and the Menazora are exactly the same. The person of the Chala Shabbos is the same dinner as far as wine is concerned, as far as cooking is concerned. If he's in the Chala Shabbos, of course, the Hesia, special dinner, when he's classified as the Chala Shabbos, a person who was tzadik shenishba, who never knew about it, brought up without knowledge of Shabbos, he cannot be blamed. Or even as the Gemara says, one does not a gili panam. Person who is Mechal Shabbos for Hesia, openly, constantly, but he has the recheres for a Talmud Chacham. He will hide when he comes to a Talmud Chacham. A person like that, then is not considered Mechal Shabbos for Hesia. Everything about it is not considered a Zohar. You can hate it, and so Zayden you have it where it's considered a Shem Shabbos in regard to being a Yisrael completely. But for the Kedusha of Shabbos, mentioned again, there was Achana for Shabbos is important. Preparation for Shabbos, the person should be sure to prepare. So this is the symbol of Elam Hazeh and Elam Haba, which should clear up the Erev Shabbos. One who works Erev Shabbos to prepare for Shabbos, he will have what to eat on Shabbos. What about a person who has enough of his food, he has a freezer full of food, or he has an oven full of all the food ready? They still have for Shabbos. The answer is Misha Torah. The one person who works Erev Shabbos with Kavod Shabbos, he will have on Shabbos the taste of Shabbos, the time of Shabbos, the Kedusha of Shabbos. When he goes without working for it, will not feel the Mamish Kedusha of Shabbos Kodesh. And that preparation means that a person, the Gemara says, it could be the most mechubed, the suffering, the animal faith elderly person, a gadol, tzadik, he should consider it not beneath his dignity to do menial tasks for the sake of Kavod Shabbos. Go out shopping, cleaning, washing, not below his dignity. Yes, the contrary, that is the Kavod. Kavod is that he is serving the Shekhinah. It's the biggest Kavod possible. And therefore, the different types of working notice that the Arizal did, the kinds of work that they were very proud of. It's chus to prepare for the Shabbos Kodesh. Himself, a person must prepare himself for Shabbos Kodesh, bathing. Arizal says the hot water the person bathes in Shabbos Kodesh, it's the chavruta, the nuda, which come down, and they are the ones that destroy the klipos, come around the kedusha before Shabbos. The Shabbos, Chodinin is Arabinot. All the dinner and all the klipos is removed from Shabbos Kodesh. This is mitzvah of tziva, going to the mikveh at Shabbos Kodesh. That person should purify himself, kaddish himself, kabel, the Shekhinah, the Shabbos Malchus. Cut his nails. The nails are the symbol of. The symbol, and it's also the mother of all the klipos. Especially if you cut nails out of Shabbos Kodesh, take a haircut, groom oneself, prepare oneself to be kabel the queen. One is mechabe the queen. In turn, the king is mechabe the queen. It's very special simcha. The fact that we come to Shabbos Kodesh and then the Yerushalmi Yisrael Avdesha, that's a chus. I'm sure I'm saying that in the Kabbalah. Simcha is pinyan b'chayet. Today we divert with the regular shias. We force out today's special event. In pinyan ben, we take up a few short halachas reference to pinyan ben, something which everyone should know, very few practice. The din is that a father is mechuyev, as the Mishnah says, mechuyev to redeem his firstborn son from the kohen. Firstborn son means the firstborn son to the mother, in this case. If it's the father's second marriage, he already has children from a different woman, and it's this second wife's first son, there is a pinyan ben. Because as far as the mother is concerned, it's the firstborn son. If it's this man marries a woman who was married before, or had children before, to this man it's his first son, there's no pinyan ben. Again, because it's his wife's second son, but not the first. It goes according to the mother in this case, Pete Rechem. First one coming from this woman, the firstborn son of that woman, that is the one to be Nifteh, redeemed, bought for the kohen for Chamisha Sloim, 5 silver coins. This is a mitzvah, special mitzvah that is noyeg wherever possible. Of course, a person can go through a whole lifetime and wish and hope for this mitzvah. If his first child is a girl, there's no way he can perform this mitzvah. It's an impossibility. Arizal says, there's some spoilers of the Kabbalah said that a person is required to fulfill all Taryag mitzvahs. What if the mitzvah doesn't come to him? Mitzvah of evil. Whatever happens in his life, mitzvah of evil. There are some who say, of course, if it doesn't come to him, he's not responsible. There are some who actually say that if it doesn't come to him, he's required to come back again as a Gilgal until he completes all these mitzvahs. Let's say he's in Israel, how do you complete the mitzvahs of Kohen? He has to go through this whole cycle again and again, because he has 613 Halacha in his body. He must perfect them by performing the 613 mitzvahs that correspond to these 613 Avidim and Gidim. The good is that the pinyan ben takes place after a full 30 days have been completed. Then, only then is the pinyan ben to take place. The father brings the son to front of the kohen. He goes through the whole ritual, which of course every kohen who has done this knows exactly how to go about it, the complicated process, the exchange, the halachas that are involved. It's
speaking, of course, about Kohanim who are very learned. As it says, Kisif say Kohen Yishmu Das, the Kohen of actually appealed. So the Kohen are filled with wisdom, and Torah is sought from their mouths. Eventually, the father, Avi Ben, goes to the Kohen, who will teach the Avi Ben all the minim that are necessary. Wow. Especially if the Kohen isn't godly yet. Other than the Simcha, it's the top. There are shadows about whether it's permissible for the Kohen to return the money to the father. There are a lot of shadows in this Mishpat. There, it is very advisable not to get involved because it is risky unless it's done many types of restrictions. It is risking not fulfilling the mitzvah properly. So in this case, a person can afford it. He should not even enter into this whatsoever. So go through the ritual completely. In fact, if possible, the Kohen should not be too unanimous. And then the Kohen says, finished, I want to give the father of the man a gift. I want to extend to him a gift. Of the amount that was given to me for the pidyon ben. So, here too, if he does that, whether originally it was taken fully as a payment, a real pidyon, he had already in mind to give it back as a gift. So it is a little risky, and it would be better if the father of the ben got his gifts from others. It is something that comes so rarely. You see that we haven't had it yet here. And in fact, we never had it, I think, before. It's best to do it properly. Hashem will fulfill, will give, will bless the Shefa, will cover for this too. The mitzvah is on the father, it is not the mitzvah for the mother. If in some case where a father doesn't fulfill it, then the Bezdin, Jewish court, is required to do it. If the Bezdin fails to do it for some reason, then the mitzvah still remains on the Chayr himself. When he gets older, he is of age, he is supposed to redeem himself before a plan to make the bracha for pidyon ben himself. Kehanim and Levim are taught from pidyon ben, which means that if a Kohen has a son, or a Levi has a son, or the mother is a Bas Kohen or a Bas Levi married to Yisrael, still the child is exempt from pidyon ben. If there was if it was a case of tzadik, which means a Syrian, then there is no pidyon ben. If there was a miscarriage prior to the pidyon ben, first child was a miscarriage, and it was, whatever the case was, miscarriage in some early stage, and then a live child was born, a son, and the shadow whether that son requires a pidyon ben, whether he's considered the firstborn or not. If he is the first live born, is he considered the firstborn? In that case, the din says very clearly that the person should not move without going to ask a shaila of Arizal, in a case like that. The best answer of all shailas. We should be careful to, one din is asked to comply, to fulfill, and retain our mission, our chayiv on this world, to fulfill the mitzvahs of Simcha V'Yahawah. That's supposed to see the Yerushalmi. So, we want to add to this shir. We'll add to the shir. Yesterday's shir, the Shabbos shir we had in Pashas Bereshis. Very brief, couple of items that we omitted. First, we said that the Zohar Horakia, the Tikuney Zohar says is the esteemed. The word rakia is the same letters as ikar. Ikar, the main thing is the yesod. Now to understand this better, why it's called ikar? Because this is the ikar, yesod is that sfira which makes the yichud. There can never be a yichud at all between Zaynabin and Nukva Malchus, between Nukva Shkinte Kaviyafo, between Chachma and Bina, only through Yesod. Yesod is the Tzadik and the Yachid. It must be the Tzadik Yesod. Yesod just as does it. Therefore this is called the Ikar. The Ikar of all the Yichudim. And this we see in the real Yichudim, the complete Yichudim, thoroughly, which means in multiplication. In the Yachid, Shemit Kei Vovke and Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, the Yaakov, you interwoven the Yud and the Aleph, and the Kei and the Dalet, the Vov and the Nun, last letter K and the Yud, multiplication, in total is Begimatria Rakia. You see how the Rakia, the Ikar is, this is the Ikar in the Psalm, in the Yichudim. Next, when he said Bereshis Kodalikim, Yaakov says that Bereshis Kodalikim teaches us that Teda, Shmiksav, is the Teda Nevi'im Ksiv. Because Bereshis Kodalikim is the Gimatria, exactly Teda Nevi'im Ksiv. Now if we note a little further, a little deeper, note an amazing phenomenon. Anybody wide awake, you would see it. Bereshis bodily kin. Torah is called a Mayan Chayim, life waters. You find throughout the whole Torah, the Shonas, the Gemara, the Zayah Kodesh. We speak about Chafru Be'er. They dug a well, Mayan Shasu Me Be'er. They drank from the waters of the well. That was the waters of Torah. That was the waters of Torah. And how much we find this made this was the Torah given then. In the beginning it was the Torah Shebachsav. What was that made What Torah Shebachsav is that? Well, we see it in that word itself. Be'er, the well, Bereshis is Bora of a kin. Bora is Bereshis Be'er. So that middle word, Bereshis, Bora Kim, middle word Av, these three, which is Gematria, Torah, Rim, Sivan, is Bora or Be'er. The word Be'er, the letter is Aleph, Aleph which is 1,000, and Reish Beis, 1,202, which is the exact Gematria of Bereshis, Bora Kim, or Torah, Rim, Sivan. You see how in Minei Bay itself we can say these to see this, detect it, see the influence of the Torah Nation. To learn the emes, the Hobin Rahaskil, Shmuel Lamed Lamed, Swiss of the Torah should take us out of this college, see the English name, the basement shift to pay off the name. Look at Shabbos. Over a long summer, we might have forgotten some of the basic dinim. So, a very brief review of just a few of the dinim that are more outstanding, not more outstanding, more common than the others. More often we need it. Case of combing hair, which should not be needed often, yet it's an important halacha, because the din says that, for example, braiding, making braids, a Nesua, that means an unmarried girl who has her own hair, is not allowed to make braids or take them apart on Shabbos. That is considered a tikkun. Keli, which is unfinished, and if you finish, you complete it, that's tikkun muna, which is also. The braiding of hair is the completing of this keli, this mesula. You find that by Yikalah, Raviel Adam, Kaviyachal Hashem did it to Chava and then brought it to Adam. You had last week's Sabbath. Now, as far as combing on Shabbos, it says that combing on Shabbos is asur for the simple reason that
there is the danger of pulling out hairs. Tearing out hairs at the Mechubah, Tolesh is Asur on Shabbos, and therefore, since combing would bring about, cause the pulling out of hairs, combing is Asur, unless there is the kind of a comb that the teeth are spaced that far apart, they will not catch in the hair, and will not pull it out. This, of course, a person, it must be done with a light hand, no pressure. This a person must test before Shabbos to see how factual this is. Will be no hairs pulled out. All this note refers to the Sulah. The woman who is married doesn't have this problem. She's not supposed to have her hair uncovered at any time. This problem does not apply to her, and surely so does not apply to a man. So a man is not supposed to have the kind of hair which requires combing. He's supposed to have his hair cut short, but very short, not like this generation's hairstyles that one looks on, which are also because of the many isurim they bring about. First place, the Din says that long hair is shachatz v'gaiva. It's considered something very disgusting. Gaiva. This is the reason that Elisha Navi had the 42 youths killed. 42 in the autumn and the mitzvahs. 42 youths they were called. Criminals today are also called youths. The word youth in this respect means that they were completely devoid of any kind of mitzvah. When he looked at them, because he said, what did he see? He saw their long hair and decided they were worthless. Therefore, he had the miracle where two bears came out of the forest, non-existing forest, killed them and killed them. So it is shachatz v'gaiva, it is a chatzitza for tefillin, and it brings about the act of combing on Shabbos, where in this case, surely there would be hairs uprooted. The whole concept of hair for men is one that is unacceptable at all. A man is supposed to have his hair cut very short to make the tefillin place kosher, without a chatzitza. Very slight thin hair is not considered chatzitza. Anything more than the very slight amount is chatzitza before tefillin. And tefillin is the ice, the mitzvah that is a symbol of a Jew. That is why it's important to repeat again in reference to Shabbos, but note that Shabbos and tefillin go together. For that sake, we repeat again the importance of the person seeing that his hair is cut very short. That way he fulfills the mitzvah of tefillin. That way he fulfills the mitzvah of humbleness, of aniva, and tznius. Which means discuss those mitzvahs to see, and ask God to say it later. Shabbos, the Isser and Tzviah, coloring on Shabbos. Coloring, of course, means a kind of a color that remains. It's color fast colors that don't run. That's considered coloring. If it's a color that doesn't remain, then it's also midrabanan. Of course, it is still also on Shabbos to paint with colors that run. Colors that are not fast. It's also midrabanan. Therefore, and also for a woman to put war paint on her face, makeup, all the shmirachs, which is wow, niceness, but Moshe Data, it is not allowed to be used on Shabbos. No conditions. You could use that on Shabbos, even though it's a kind of paint that is not permanent. It's a very important halacha for women to know. They cannot take this lightly. Definitely also. Also, one whose hands are colored because of fruit that runs. He ate a melon. It's red, and his hands are red because of that fruit, or anything else which is ready, right? Liquid that's colored. Should not touch his clothes, cloth, and towel, because he would be coloring them.
he has to wash his hands off first with water. Such as any kind of a article that couldn't see this color. Also, he was not to take a handkerchief in case he was bleeding at the time. So the blood flows. So the nose bleed, Chassidut. He still cannot use the handkerchief to stem the flow because he is coloring the handkerchief. Should use water. If water is not effective, you have to stop this flow, because pressure is the best thing of all. But if you need something, you're going to have to stop it and take that which is to be discarded anyhow. It's they purchase napkins that are being thrown out. That is not considered actually colored, even though it is still better possible. When he spills out on the table, we try to avoid using either napkins. If it's colored item, still if it's paper, we know that this is not being used to color, it's being used to, it's just a waste matter, then it is not considered coloring, it's considered lichlich. It's considered just smearing, dirtying up the item. It's not coloring, it means when you are affecting something. It is important to know that the actual Isser coloring, the Isser Tzveya, is when you strengthen the color. You take a white cloth and put it into wine, that is coloring the white cloth red. But it's not the real Inyan of Tzveya. Tzveya is when you take something which is red, put it into wine, or red paint, that's considered color. Strengthening the color itself, not changing it. So the issue therefore is to avoid coloring the chalal, even with Rabbanon, or in the case of lichluch, it is permissible. Therefore, in the case, let us say, of a person that has a nosebleed, Chassidut, or a flow of blood anywhere, gash or cut, then if he has only a handkerchief and no tissues, we say, some place in Shulchan himself related to this, away from the others who are Nachman. He says in this case, we should be naked. Consider this cloth, even a pure white handkerchief, an expensive one. Consider it's not coloring, but it's malachta, soiling the handkerchief, and therefore it's permissible. In the case of bleeding case, and it surely is today. Semech on that, not to look for chumras when there is Chassidut danger. Yaakov hu nefesh. In this case, we've seen people who are Menachem Mendel, and it's a serious error, mistake. Opticstak Harvey, by erroneously being Nachman too much. In this case, that it's important to know that we could consider this Nachman in case of serious bleeding. And he may use any kind of a cloth, just to avoid a red cloth. If the bleeding is not serious at all, it is time to look to search for means of avoiding this. It's best to follow the law of this. Zecher to shamet, to guard, the dam hu nefesh, is to live the Hashem with all our damim, all our heart and soul. That's a person who should give us anything. After the Shabbos, the din of Kishida to tie a mat on Shabbos is awesome. A mat is considered only a kesher shel hayamah. A mat that is made to last, not one that is temporary, not one that comes out. For instance, shoelaces are tied with a knot and a bow, just one tug of the string and it comes out. Or else it's made to undo the same day. double knot is one that's meant to really last. The person does not make a double knot on the shoelaces. Simple logic. So you see, double knot is made to last. Therefore, in the Sefer Torah, the person knows Hagdor. They have napkins, glue, clips that go on, save its problems. So the Torah is two reasons why a person should be careful never to tie a double knot. First place, the Shida, tying a knot and untying a knot is the same issue. To tie a double knot is also, to untie a double knot on Shabbos is also just as awesome. So, first place, if you tie a double knot, there is Tikuney Zohar, the bird-building people opinion. Next time you rain, let's say on Monday you tie double knots, particularly on Thursday they have to start working, struggling to untie this double knot. Before the leaning, it was unfair. On Thursday, if you tie a double knot, it will make it much worse than on Shabbos. You have one Sefer Torah about showing tying a double knot there. You cannot untie a double knot on Shabbos. So this person on Thursday, having Hagdor, having the Lila, having Lila and tie the double knot, causes trouble for people on Shabbos. There are means, ways of trying to do a double knot on Shabbos, which is people by using one hand and so forth. These are details which should be avoided. Best the person be careful not to tie the double knots. Those garments which require laces, shoes, for example, or belt, pants that need a belt. Hoops the belt goes through, and the pants are not complete until these laces of belt are in it. If it's a new pair of shoes, new pair of clothes, and a person just puts the belt through on Shabbos with laces, it is considered as though he is completing the workings of this garment. So tikkun, the nice perfecting garment, which is usher on Shabbos. Actually, that's why you cannot put in new laces into a new pair of shoes. That's if these shoes are brand new. If they belt and they take them out of the shoe store, you find most cases that the shoe stores have the shoe laces just in the top place, top holes of the shoe. You go through the rest of the shoes on Shabbos is good. You wear a new pair of shoes for Shabbos, you cannot wear them because you cannot lace them for Shabbos. Or new pair of pants and you forgot to put the belt inside, you cannot put it on Shabbos. If it's an old pair, then it is permissible only if there's no problem. The holes are very tiny, they work on getting laced through. Even a very old pair is possible on Shabbos. Or the same thing with the loops. They're very small, you have to put pressure on to get them go through. It's also on Shabbos. And that goes through very easily in an old pair, and you are allowed to release it. Zohar to discuss following Shabbos and kiruv to Shabbos. Shabbos, reference to animals on Shabbos. All by chai are muktzah. We've mentioned many times it is unfeasible or possible for a Jew to have a dog without doing something wrong on Shabbos. Because it's muktzah, the dog has to be taken out and so on. It's very difficult to be able to maintain a dog and teach the dog to be a Shem Shabbos too. However, muktzah is an Issa D'Rabbanan. There is a Issa D'Naisa with animals, and that is tzedek, capturing anything, any live item, whether it's capturing a live animal, or a bird, or a fish, or even the tiniest insect. To capture a fly is also breaking an Issa D'Naisa. You're not allowed to capture anything which is which is alive and which is not domesticated. In other words, if you take hold of a dog, a person's own dog, or his muktzah, or let's say touching it, it's not going to calculate. But there's no Isur to say that because it's domestic, it's tame. Anything which is wild, not tame, there is the Isur of tzedek. Therefore, this holds true mainly in case of insects. People see insects, small ones, and larger ones, the ones that are very bothersome, the mosquito especially, and he may forget himself and try to capture it, or worse still, or just as bad, to kill it. Kill anything alive is also an Isa Malacha. You're not allowed to kill any Bal Chai on Shabbos. So a person must be very careful that even if the mosquito is in the act of biting him, the desire, the craving for revenge is intense. Go after this. Still, he cannot kill the mosquito, for one thing, and he cannot capture it either. He could shoo it off. The mosquito refuses to budge because it knows that it's safe behind the wall of law, legalities. The mosquito knows about Shabbos. They generally do. After Shabbos, they come out very brazenly. You're allowed to take hold of the mosquito and, or whatever, let's say a bee or a scorpion, take hold of it and just push it away. You don't have to hold on to it to capture it, although by taking hold of it, you've already captured it. This is a case of self-defense. At that moment, you may take hold of it and toss it aside, cast it aside, but you cannot kill it. The only thing that may be killed is one type of insect, and that is lice. There are different types of lice. There's fly lice, garment lice, clothes lice, as well in clothing. You don't find them here nowadays. As sanitary conditions, it's disinfected. So disinfected that we don't find it, although some kind of plague, dark plague is very liable to bring it back. But the lice that are found in clothing are also forbidden to kill or to capture. It's only those lice that are found in the head. One has that. You're allowed to actually kill it. And the reason is not because they are more dangerous, but because, contrary to scientific belief, and is very solid about this, these lice are not committed to be through reproduction. They are not born. They're not born from other lice. These lice are spontaneous generation. They come from they are born created from the perspiration. Perspiration of the head is what produces these lice. Of course, if a person washes constantly, keeps himself groomed. In a sanitary condition, scientists wouldn't have this problem. But in case one does have that, and this is the one item, since, as we said, they are not born, they are spontaneous generation, created from dirt, from filth, from sweat, therefore it is permissible to kill them. Now, if a person has kind of a chest, a box, and in this box there are some valuables or even food. The box is open and he finds that there are flies in there. If he closes the box now, it means that he's trapping these flies, or whatever other insects. There are crawling types of insects that are found that are sort of semi-domesticated. You walk into the kitchen and see them as though they own the place, especially on Shabbos. If you ever see one, they'll look you right in the eye and they'll dare you. So, in these cases, if you close the box with one on the inside, you have broken the Isur Tzeder, you've captured it. You've got to be careful to drive them all out, to insist they get out, as much as the eye can see. If there is the possibility that there are more hidden somewhere, you're allowed to close the box. That which you don't see, you're not responsible for. Again, the entire Isur is Seder, which a person must be careful about. We don't have the big problems like big animals. The Din said the Golden revolves around the question of if you find something that a deer has walked into the house. Deer, an antelope walks into your house, you should close the door, you're not supposed to sit down in front of the door to block its exit. Because two things. One, it's Seder, and second, it might give you a ride out. So it's best to avoid what is said. But for us, of course, the ikar is that it's part of the business of Shabbos, which is the Zechat to Mali, the Kayan mitzvah of Shabbos of Shleimus, which is the Zechat to Shabbos, Shalosat Lovoi, yes, which is the Shabbos. One of the Amalachas of Shabbos is either planting, seeding in the ground, or tillage, the opposite, to rip out, to uproot, right here. The people who walk by bushes, shrubbery, and without thinking, they pull off a leaf, a small leaf of blade. This, the klal, is also even in the weekdays, because it's something that is alive, it's a meach, it's alive, you're killing something that is alive. Of course, we know that all these leaves, like every blade of grass, is mispalot Hashem. That's why the splendidness of the fields is so precious. The fields go up, Yitzchak was suach basoder. So the Esav basoder, fields go up. That's in the weekdays also, it is wrong to tear out a leaf or anything that is growing, unless it's necessary for its own sake. You mow the lawn to improve its appearance, to improve its health. Koshkin for Shabbos, where there's a chilul Shabbos, tearing out or planting. Therefore, a person has a plant, a flower pot. A person has a flower pot. In this flower pot, there are flowers that are used for either beautify the home or to enjoy the aroma. And it is forbidden to tear out anything from this flower pot, just like it's forbidden to tear something off a tree. Also, in addition, a person must be very careful. If it is on the ground means on the soil, and you pick it up, and you are tearing out, same as Kiddush, you're tearing out whatever is there. Because while the flower pot is on the ground, it is drawing its nourishment from the ground itself, even though there is a pot, just like a pot on the fire. The food in the pot cooks through the floor of the pot. Here, the regular flower pot is made of earthenware, and so it's porous, and the power of life that comes from the ground goes through these pores of the earthenware jelly into the flowers in that flower pot. So therefore, if it's on the ground, you're not allowed to pick it up off the ground, this flower pot. If it's on the table, you cannot put it on the ground because that's the same as planting. This din applies, you said, either to put it down as planting or uprooting. It also applies to every type of pot. As a gzeda, whether the pot has holes in it, whether it definitely draw unique light to the ground, or whether it's a closed pot, whether it's earthenware or anything else, also a gzeda, we cannot take the risk, and that is why it's forbidden to attach, put a flower pot down or pick it up, any kind. We should be zocher to have our yadika, draw our nourishment from the Malchus, from the Shekhinah Akdesha. Right now, in the Shabbos, we call upon the Shekhinah, we definitely call upon the Menachem Mashiach. This is the Shabbos, didn't Mashmiach tell the Shabbos. It says you're not allowed to play any kind of instrument on Shabbos, or make any kind of noise that would be used for the purpose of music and song. The reason for this is a piece of the Rabbanon. The reason for this gzeda is, if we would allow a person to play an instrument, then it may break down, he may forget, he may repair it. Because of the gzeda, he might repair an instrument, therefore it's forbidden to play any kind of music. this din does not apply only to instruments, musical instruments. It applies to anything at all, even the hands. A person cannot clap. Clap, of course, means for the sake of keeping rhythm, for the sake of music, add the music on, or for the sake of dancing. For the sake of any kind of simcha, a person cannot clap his hands together because of the same gezerah. You might then add to this some kind of music, so that's why all this type of any rough referral to music at all is also on Shabbos. Then you're clapping hands, once in the Shir, the Gemara, the Yerushalmi tells about the mayor who came to Yehuda's son's wedding, and there we find that mayor was very much connected the fact that they were clapping hands for the sake of music. This was on Shabbos. They were clapping their hands for the sake of rikud, dancing, singing. They fled. He refused to be present in the face of what he considered a possible violation of Shabbos, Chilul Shabbos. The Halacha says, therefore, that clapping hands on Shabbos is forbidden, is osur, even if it's for the sake of rikud, for the sake of the simcha of Shabbos itself. What then? It is permissible to clap hands for the achayat, which means the back of the hand, not the two palms together, but it's an irregular motion, even though you could make noise then too. This is what the din says. You see a strange fact that minig is so powerful, the olam is made today, the world, which means the chesed, the side of the world is chesed. There's chesed, there's din. The right side chesed is chassidim, and the left side din is in the snegdim. Yes. The side of the chassidim is made today to openly clap hands freely, and not consider it an aveda, but even consider it a mitzvah. The simcha shel mitzvah, and the choas kaf is permissible even on Shabbos. Even on Shabbos, you can be mantik with the snegdim. The fact is that though in the Shulchan itself, the din is very hesitant about permitting something like this, yet in all the Chassidut Yisraelim, they're all right that it's a mitzvah, a minig, and a mitzvah to be able to clap hands for the sake of the kudim chas kaf. The reason is that the simcha shel mitzvah is so great, so high a mitzvah, it reaches the madrega of the Shabbos Kiddush itself. Person to reach that kedusha. Therefore, clapping hands on Shabbos is mutter. Again, Arizal's words to be seen here. Mitzvah gedol liyas b'simcha tameh. Mitzvah is so great. The mitzvah of Shabbos is above all mitzvahs. Mitzvah of simcha can reach that point. The fact that the simcha is part of the Shabbos Kiddush itself. That's why in this case, then, clapping hands, according to Minig, is mutter, but only if it is for the sake of the mitzvah of simcha, a simcha shel mitzvah. If it's for the sake of applause, if somebody speaks and they applaud, this would be then awesome. Unless, of course, they applaud, because they are not pleased with it. They applaud to stop them from speaking. It must be, when do we say that clapping hands is also? Only if it's derech simcha. If it's not derech simcha at all, just plain clapping hands, it's awesome. Clapping hands to still somebody, clap your hands together to make people keep quiet, this would be mutter. Again, there's a custom that we don't do it, but since there's no kind of simcha involved, it's not done for the sake of music of any kind, so a person to clap his hands to command silence, this would be mutter according to the Halacha itself. On the same token, any kind of a keli that's made for the sake of curl, of making a sound, that is also forbidden, even though it's not made for music. For example, if you have a door knocker, metal knocker on the door, knock on that door, then it is forbidden for a person to use that to knock on the door because it's a keli that's miuchad, specifically made for that purpose of knocking. And therefore, that is also. It is permissible, though, to make a sound, same knocking sound. A person has hard knuckles, he can rap on the door, make a sound, because this is not a keli used for that purpose. Or, even to take, let's say, any metal item, which is heavier than the metal knocker, use it to knock on the door is permissible, since it's not a keli of yuchalakah, not made for the sake of the knocking on the door. This is the beginning of the Halacha of Mashmir for the Shabbos, which is Zohar to Kayim Mitzvah Shabbos Kodesh Karoi. You can say Shirim Shekulei Shabbos. Yes, the Shabbos in the Shmiya Kos, making sounds that pertain to music. Therefore, we have the things we learned. It says that we have in Zeta Shemi Yisakin Mona. You cannot play any kind of music because you might repair the keli, but repair this instrument. Therefore, even clapping hands or anything like any kind of a keli that makes a sound is also to use on Shabbos. This whole din, the Ramah says, the Ramah brings a kula, says that since today, nowadays, we are all very uneducated, not experts in any trade, at least the majority of people are, so this gazeta does not apply anymore. We're not afraid that if we play an instrument, in case it breaks down, we're going to fix it. Any person that tries to fix anything nowadays surely will do more harm than good. There's no problem about it, worrying about repairing. Because of that, we could be makil, and it's permissible to be makil to not to worry about this gazeta. Point that I'm on, there was even the possibility of all these sounds being permissible. Playing instruments and so forth. At least for the sake of a mitzvah, for example, according to this, it would mean that in case there was a chassidut on Shabbos, those days they had it, some places they still have it, chassidut is held on Shabbos, you ought to have music at the chassidut. There's an orchestra there, not the orchestra, but usually people themselves, not experts at music, they would apply. Normal people, some don't want to take instruments and play them. As good as they work, or as good as they are, they'd be allowed to play them. Point that Amor, this would be the halacha. Of course, with great reluctance, and Amor says that it would seem to imply this. The Mesa, of course, is not done. We don't play instruments on Shabbos regardless, even though there is this kula. But there is a different halacha. Amor says that at least we speak about we're going to accept that gazeta. If we can accept that gazeta even, at least there are certain kinds of musical notes that are made with other instruments that should be permissible. Even the hands are not used for clapping. For example, a person who whistles. A person who whistles, that sounds different. Whistles are true, we can say that it's awesome because there is music involved. There's a zeta, you don't repair a kid. And if he's not whistling to it, he's just whistling to call his friends. I don't know. If they whistling wants to say to somebody, or they call a taxi, Shabbos taxi, this would be the whistle. And the real thing is whistle, I feel the whistle to somebody, call somebody. This asks about this, a commercial. What's the finish? What is he telling us? Moshe Feinstein thinks that he tells that it's difficult to whistle on Shabbos when it's obvious, it's too simple or good to state. He says that the law means about the whistle, not just what they do, about to even put your fingers in your mouth, give out that piercing sound whistle which can travel very far. Even using your fingers, even that too is missing because there's no music involved, no rhythm involved. It's just a short, clear whistle. So this will mean then that whistling on Shabbos, one of the Fetish is surely permissible at the more the Fetish. But then he concludes and says
if even we say that this is permissible, it's only the halacha, and not the ma'aseh. Because the whole concept of whistling is one that is fit for non-Orthodox. It's not fit for a normal person, Jew, has to be fine, respectful, to whistle even in the weekdays. It's very low, very base sort of type of person who whistles. That's fit for a person respectful. So this is a matter of refinement, because this should be avoided completely. Think that as far as the Mashniach go, he said it is important to know there are days. There's no Zeda nowadays.